All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to our Thursday night book club. We are starting our book, Build to Last, by Keith Callahan. And I am digging this book so much so far. First of all, I love that he just lays out exactly who he is in the beginning and why we have to listen to him, what credibility he has. I don't know if y'all really appreciated reading his income for the first 8 years, but the red in me really appreciated seeing those numbers on that. So I was like, okay, yeah, they got some real numbers here that we can work with. I love this. So Keith actually, like he said, he's not this like massive guru, but he is somebody that found his system and stuck with his system and has really built a massive network marketing company. And I love he was saying that uh, you know, 3 years into his network marketing business, he went on a 2-week vacation with his family. And while he was gone, his organization grew by 800. 800. Can you fathom that? Like 800 people in the 2 weeks while he was gone. And when he got back, he had no text messages or voicemails or emails or anything like that of people that were like needing him or that really, he didn't have to do anything. It was able to just grow on its own. And the important thing in this is that he has really worked on leadership and relationships, which he points out is a huge part of growing a network marketing business. One thing that I thought is so important is when he talks about leaders of followers need to be needed and leaders of leaders want to be exceeded. I really feel like, you know, one big switch that you tend to make, I think, in network marketing, which kind of takes you from somebody who is just trying to like, do this as a side gig kind of thing into like, I'm actually going to treat this as a business, as you do start to realize that you do need to start developing leaders. And if you want to take that even further, start realizing that you want to develop leaders who will actually exceed you. Because by the way, chances of them like exceeding you and you not being able to grow as a result of that anyway are slim. But if you are focused on the people in your organization and loving your people well and work focused on helping them rank up, focus on helping them hit their goals, focus on helping them get to leaders retreat, focus on helping them get sweep the convention contest. Like if that's your focus, then your business is going to fall in line with that anyways. But if you can really work on having a heart to be exceeded and not just to be someone who is followed all the time, I think you're going to really find more joy in your business every day too, instead of the constant grind. I know in the very beginning for me, I was probably one of those recruiting rock stars in the beginning. I was recruiting like crazy. And you do hit a place where you're like, man, this is not sustainable. This is not sustainable. I'm recruiting like crazy and I'm, getting 3 joins and 6 joins and, 9 joins a month and getting all the incentives and everything. But I wasn't creating leaders for the longest time. And so I found myself, I hit gold without any leaders on my team whatsoever, or even anybody that even was interested in being a leader. And once I hit gold, I found that I actually fell quite a bit afterwards because I wasn't investing in my people. I was invested in the sale, I was invested in that next incentive, I was invested in going after that. And I think we talked about this with the 4 color personalities. As a red, that's something you need to watch out for, is you're constantly looking at like what that next thing is that you can like compete for or grab or get or win or whatever, what that next rank is. And not in like a greedy kind of way. It's just the way that you're wired. You're wired for competition. You're wired for success. You're wired for like, what's the next thing? You're constantly looking at the next thing. However, I love when he talks about, I think he said his name was Bill, was, a recruiting machine. And he wasn't recruiting even close to what Bill was, but he grew such a strong organization because he was so focused on his people. He was focused on relationships. He was focused on helping them become really great leaders. And I know we always talk about like a hole, like when we're talking about, bad retention, or we talk about a hole in our bucket, right? You got a hole in your bucket. Well, you're recruiting like crazy, but you have people falling off because you got a hole in your bucket. It's very hard to have a hole in your bucket when you are constantly focused on each person that you bring into your organization and making sure that they are comfortable with their products, that they're comfortable with what they need to be doing, that you're helping them get their 3 people so that they're solid in what they need to be doing, that you're casting vision to that person, that you're loving them well and making sure that you're not just addressing products and how they're doing on, Plexus or whatever, but just talk to them like people. How are they doing in their lives? You're there to walk through life with them. I mean, what we do in health and wellness bleeds into everything else that everybody does, right? Health and wellness bleeds into every area of our lives. So when you step into this industry and specifically into this company, you do kind of step into, hi, I'm here to like be a champion for you and an advocate for you and an encourager in your life, and to really just be in your corner and to love you well and celebrate you in your big things and to like cry with you in your sad things. And because this is health and wellness, and I'm committed to making sure that you feel your best mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, all those things. So that's something that I think if you can grasp that early on in this business, instead of waiting until, you've recruited like crazy and now you've got this massive team that you don't really even know who they are. And now you're trying to get to know them and save them while also recruiting. And now you're like, that's exhausting. Let me tell you from experience, that's exhausting. Okay. Make sure that as you're bringing people in now, that you're loving people well and focusing on them. And then take that one step further. What if not only you were loving them well into being a great customer, but you are loving them into being a great leader on your team, and you're casting that vision for what great leadership looks like? I remember a while back, and this made me think of this, where Brittany Howard was saying that, actually, I think it was Michelle Stuchel was telling me about Brittany Howard, that one thing she does well is that she always will tell somebody that next little nugget in their success. And then that way they believe her in the long-term stuff, right? So she'll be like, oh my gosh, I bet that if you put up a post like that, people will totally copy and paste that post. People will want to use that post. That's a small win, right, for people. But when you're brand new, how many of you don't act like you didn't? How many of you, when somebody took your post, you're like, that must have been a really good post, somebody used it, right? Like you kind of get that little bit of exciting. You do it after a while and you kind of, get numb to that. But that's exciting. And so you're like, oh, people are going to totally copy your post. And then somebody copies their post and they're like, okay, they were right. And then you're like, you know what? I bet if you posted a video on that, you would have so many people commenting on that, saying that they can relate. I bet if you did that, and just start calling those things out, those little successes and those little wins, so that when they do those things and people are commenting and so that when they are in those small things, they're seeing those wins, so that when you're casting vision for a long term, like, listen, you're going to walk a stage someday. And you're going to be delivering a training on how you built a massive business and why you are now a 5-star diamond. They're going to believe you because you've been able to call out these wins from the beginning. So that to me is like a super powerful example of developing leaders on your team and not just product users or whatever. Yes, I love what Leah said. It's like building trust. So I won't stick on that too long, but then the next chapter, chapter 2, it goes into building a lasting legacy. And this I thought was so, it was so good, where he talks about 7 generations and thinking 7 generations deep, and how what you're doing now affects 7 generations into your life. That is, to me, that really that put a check in my brain, in my heart a little bit today, because I was like, gosh, 7 generations. So there's times where it's like, man, I only have like this much life left. I know I'm only in my 30s, but I do think that way. I don't have this much life left, and so I got to hurry and get stuff done, and hurry and get my work done, and hurry and succeed so that I can enjoy it. Well, and then so I can enjoy it or whatever. But it's like, but if you get to this place where you start focusing on the fact that everything you do, every decision you make, even just getting up in the morning to take your kids to church every Sunday, no matter what, like, we're going to make church a priority in our family. That's a huge thing that will affect through generations, because if you raise your kids like that, they're going to raise their kids like that, and so on. Like, think of the old, there's the old joke about the, grandma who used to or the mom that used to cut the butt off her roast, and she'd put it in this roasting pan or whatever. And her mom was like, or her kid was like, why do you always cut the end off the roast? Why don't you just leave it on there? And she was like, I don't know, it's the way my mom always did it. And so she cut both ends off and she put the roast in. And then so she went to her grandma and she was like, Grandma, why do you always cut the roast? Why do you always cut the butt off the roast before you put it in the pan? She's like, I don't know. It's just the way my mom taught me to do it. We've always done it this way. So she went to her great grandma and, Grandma, why do you always cut the butt off the roast? And she goes, well, we always had this tiny little pan. My roast never fit. So I had to cut the butts off to put it in there. And so but it stuck with her family, and it went how many generations deep where now everyone's cutting the butt off the roast because that's what they know. So everything that you do and all the decisions that you're making right now affect you. It affects your husband. It affects your kids. It affects your friends, your coworkers, all these little decisions that you're making do add up, and they will equal the legacy that you are going to leave someday. So I just thought that was so good and so deep. But you know me, I could talk forever. So I'm going to open it up and see what you guys thought. Did you guys have anything that stuck out to you or any stories that you could relate to?
I'll go. I always wait to see if someone else is going to go. The roast thing, it makes me think of like duplication too, Natalie, just as far as like you need to what my computer's doing. There we go. Be really mindful like how you bring people in, like everything that you do. People might not even know why you're doing what you're doing, but if you model well, I mean, that's why we do three-way calls. Like I just was talking through, this was one of my levels deeper. She was signing someone up with her level one. She's like, how do I do this? And how do I show them? I'm like, you just do it. And then they'll see you do it. And then they'll know how to do it. And then you can do it together and have them do part of it, like that's the best way. And I think that that's really good to make sure that we're speaking into people too when they're getting started with their businesses. Like just really simplify things and like, hey, let's do it together. I'll do it first and I'll lead, and then you can try it with me and then you can go do it. Like that's duplication in a nutshell and like the basics of it. So, but I liked the roast story. That'll be a good one to come back to with our businesses. The other thing that I was thinking too is on page 35, he was talking about the two different people, the one that recruited like a ton of people, and then the one that actually duplicated, and how she was bringing in 150,000 a month, I think it said, right? Like it was generating so much more, and that's the power of duplication too. And I think that that is a great example as well. But one thing that I was thinking about is don't let that stop you from recruiting people. Like it's still good to recruit a lot of people. Like if you feel like within your organization you don't have the leaders that you want, then you need more people to work with. And so get out there and get your butt recruiting so that you can find people. And you're probably going to have to sift through, like we need those customers, those long-term customers. Like I read the yoga studio thing and I'm like, you know what, that is a good chunk of residual income still. Like you still need those customers. So bring whoever wants to come in, bring them in, recruit, and you're going to sift through. And kind of like he said, some of your people are going to turn into leaders, some of them are going to turn into leaders of leaders. You don't know who that is. So sign everybody up who wants to sign up. Don't think I have to like prejudge and decide whether this person's going to be great at the business right away or not. Just anybody that wants to come in, whether it's for the business or for the products, give them a chance. When you're building, maybe when you're Fallon, you might be a little bit more selective. But right now we're all building. So bring them in and up those numbers with recruiting. That's going to help you.
I just thought about that. I wonder if he ever called.
Find the right people. So yes.
So good.
Yeah, because I think
All right, we
it
got
was
someone
like
that muted.
45 living at my mom's, or either.
I think it's Anna.
Yeah, there we go. All right, muted. Perfect. That was good, Leah. Yeah, it's important to, note that when he talks about not being a recruiting machine, he means don't just recruit and leave them there. He doesn't mean don't recruit, like still recruit a lot of people. Like you said, we still need those customers. So I thought the same thing about that yoga studio. I was like, $3,000 is still not chump change a month, to be bringing in. Still a good leg.
What I really liked. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I'll be fast. I was just gonna say I really liked that. I feel like his like tone or language is like very relatable. Like I'm just like a real regular person who was like starting a business and then I had to borrow money to be successful. And like he really makes it feel not like he's like some person that's like so much different than the rest of us. It really makes you feel like you can relate to like what he's doing and understand like that why that he had. I loved where he was like, I wanted to do what I wanted, where I wanted, when I wanted, etc. Because that's something that I said, like from when I started, was that I hoped like that was when I would know I was successful, is that I wouldn't have to do any more have tos anymore. So I just really liked that, and that he feels like a real person. Because sometimes you read stuff and you're like, yeah, that person's way different, or so I really liked that.
I think that goes well with what he talks about in the legacy portion. Like he says, what are you leaving in the hearts and souls of those you touch? Is it something you want to pass down for 7 generations? What are you modeling? And I think, like you said, he's a real person and he's talking about real experiences. So, what are you, as the normal person you are, putting out there? Like we always talk about value. What is your value? What are you spreading to people? Because 7 generations, then that's a big deal. I guess we really just don't think about that. You're not putting that in there. So when you are doing something, you're like, is this something that I want someone else to model? Like, it's definitely there with your kids. Do you want your kids to model this behavior? Do you want them to be doing this? But it's bigger than that. It's bigger than your kids. It's everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't know if we were talking about chapter 2 yet or not. Are we okay to talk about chapter 2? Okay. I loved chapter 2. It was fantastic. The part, it's like the very ending part where it says income is not the real gift a changed life is. And it talked in there. So a lot of times when I talk to people about the business, I feel like I'm always trying to word it about like you can't help but become like a better version of yourself when you do this business. And it's so hard for me to like find the words of how to say it. And as I was listening, I did audiobook, but as I was listening to this, I was like, yes, this is exactly what I've been trying to like describe to people and say to people, that like it was just talking about like, we think that the income is the big gift, but it's like the real gift is being the person you have to become in order to earn the income. And I just think that that's like so powerful, because I just think back to what I was doing, or how, who I was before I started this business, and I've just changed in so many different ways. And I might not be the rank that I want to be or anything right now, but like I look at like my growth as such a blessing because of this business. And I feel like I say this all the time to Leah, but like I know like I'm just building so that when something, when it starts to come and everything, that I'm like ready to take on and be that leader. Like if I got a huge leader at the beginning, I wouldn't have known what to do. You know what I mean? I had to like transform and change and grow and do all of those things so I could be ready and prepared for when they do come. So
I think that's so important, is to be mindful of the fact that you need to be prepared as a leader for those big, huge, momentum shifts and whatnot. And when your team grows fast, it's fun, but you gotta be prepared. You gotta be in the right mindset, and you've got to know how to effectively not just lead yourself, but as he says, now learn how to lead leaders. It's important. It's good, Canada.
That's funny, Kenneth. I was going to mention about the same thing. um, because that I fortunately had a leader like come right in, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, whoa, things are moving too fast. But then I look at it now as, okay, I learned along with her because there was so many different things, and now I have another one that's a little bit slower. So I'm like, okay, I can work this out. So I just like how he said that. And then with to Canada with the money, I didn't realize I was that I love to travel. So when the money was not my biggest reason why I starting all this. It was just the helping the people, and then just being able to do what I do now, um, go on vacation. We never did this in our younger years of being married. So it's nice to be able to do this now. And this is just a big stepping stone. And it just helps you see that your efforts can help somebody else do the same thing and help them get their dreams. And I'm like, wow, why didn't I read this book a long time ago? It's so relatable.
Yeah. I highlighted a lot of that too. I love where he says, becoming the best possible version of yourself so you can help others become the best possible version of themselves is not easy work. It's simple. And in this section, I'm going to show you how to do it, but it's not easy. The reward is a changed life for you, the people you touch, and 7 generations down the road. Holy moly. Did anybody do any of the action steps at the end of any of the chapters? Curious what some of y'all came up with, if anyone wants to share. Feel like we've all done the exercise for the most part on thinking 5 years into the future, right? So we've all done it at some level. I know I did it on a team call before. I've heard Jaime do it before. Like Leah, I know has done it. So we've all done the exercise like, okay, 5 years in the future, what does your life look like? Emily has a really good one where she talks about like, what are you smelling? Like picture yourself 5 years. What do you smell? What do you see? What do you hear? Whatever. And getting as specific as you can with those are going to really help you be in a mindset to where you can actually start to step into that person that you want to become. The more that you can awaken your senses to it, right? The more that you can actually step into that and start walking in that. So when you are doing this exercise, be very specific with your senses and what you're hearing and what you're seeing and what you're envisioning. Be very specific because that's going to help you. Yeah, they're on my list too, Leah. So Jaime and Fallon were on her list. Her and a couple others, other sister ones are on my list too. But I found that, when it says what type of people are they, how do they make other people feel, what skills do they possess that you admire? I had to they love to learn. They love to, and I noticed that was like a common theme with all of them. They love to learn. They love to, they can't learn enough. And so one thing I'm like, man, if you want to be a phenomenal leader, you have to be a phenomenal learner. And that never stops. If you want to be a leader, you've got to be a learner. Anyone have anything else they want to share?
Hi, ladies. So I wanted to share something about the sec. I've loved this book. Like every word I have absolutely loved. Um, and I really love that first section that he kind of tells his story a little bit.
Mhm.
In there, he talked about doing a 4-day, what did he call it? Vision quest. And so that really hit my heart kind of heavy. And so we're a couple of my teammates and I were going to Punta Cana, and it's 4 days, right? So I challenged my team to kind of take this upon themselves. And Emmy, I'm going to talk about this with you tomorrow on our call. But I just love that he did that. And I just love that he got so much out of that. And um, the fact that we're going to be much less distracted, I guess, while we're away. I just think this was just God's hand in timing to put this on our hearts to do this. And we're just going to try to, we're going to um, just pray. We're going to seek the Lord for guidance and for growth and to increase our wisdom in all things regarding this business. And I just think this is a wonderful book to do that with as well. So we're just really excited.
Man, that's so awesome. I love that for you. That's gonna be awesome. Take lots of good notes and journal like crazy. It'll be so good. And yes, this is a good self-reflection book for this kind of stuff too. So. All right. Well, I think we'll end on that. That was such a good way to end, I think. So we'll go ahead and wrap up. Next week we are covering 3 and 4. So anyways, thank you guys for sharing, and we will see you guys next week.